The baby cried against the crackle of dry wind, tiny fists beating against Eli Granger's chest. He shifted the child higher, one arm bracing the fragile weight while the other pulled the rifle closer to the porch rail. The sun bled low on the horizon, painting the dust red as if the land itself remembered blood. A rider stood on a ridge, still as a nail driven into bone. Eli's eyes fixed on the dark silhouette, while the baby's cries cut sharper than the coyote's howl rolling from the canyon. The wind carried grit. It stung his eyes, caught in his beard. He spat into the dirt, jaw locked. The figure on the ridge did not move. Behind him the house groaned, timbers settling. Inside, the fire snapped weakly, and the smell of milk souring in a tin cup lingered. Eli did not look back. His world was forward, out there, on that line where the sun sank and men waited. The child's wail faltered to hiccups. Eli's calloused hand brushed the infant's head, rough against soft curls. "Hush," he muttered, voice low, almost swallowed by the wind. The rider turned. Dust rose where hooves struck. Then silence, just the desert breathing. Eli exhaled slow. The sound rattled like old wood. He leaned the rifle back against the wall, though his knuckles stayed white. The earth smelled of ash, though no fire burned. Bootsteps scraped. He looked down the porch. Mrs. Callahan climbed, skirts dragging, bonnet tied hard beneath her chin. Her eyes cut sharper than spurs. "I told you, Eli Granger," she said, planting her cane on the planks. "You needed a bride, not a graveyard of memories." Eli said nothing. The baby shifted, a soft whimper against his chest. "You'll lose that child to the land same as you lost her," the matchmaker pressed. "This ranch don't forgive the lonely." The silence stretched. A vulture circled above, wings creaking like old leather. Eli's jaw worked once, but no words came. Only the faint sound of the baby's breathing filled the space between them. Mrs. Callahan tapped her cane, hard enough to shake dust from the boards. "Mark me, Eli. A man can mend fences alone, but he can't mend sorrow. The land will eke you whole." She turned, skirts catching on splinters, and stomped down into the yard. Her figure dwindled into the dust. Eli watched until she blurred against the dying sun. His hand drifted to the rifle again, fingers tracing the cold steel. On the ridge, the rider was gone, but the weight of eyes still pressed on him, heavy as the child in his arms. The baby whimpered once more, then fell quiet. The desert held its breath. And Eli Granger, widowed rancher, stood in the silence, alone but for the small heartbeat against his chest. The fence lay split, rails scattered like bones across the dirt. Hoof prints cut deep into the soil, heavy and deliberate. Eli crouched low, his baby tied close to his chest, tiny breath rising and falling against him while the morning wind tugged at his hat brim. The cattle bawled restless in the corral, their eyes rolling white. Eli's hand brushed the jagged wood, splinters catching skin. A nail shone bright, freshly torn. They had been here at dawn. They wanted him to see. From town, the church bell cracked against the air, 3 short rings, sharp as gunfire. He straightened. The baby's small cry drowned beneath the low moan of cattle. Smoke smudged the sky eastward where the saloon chimney coughed. On the barn door, a knife pinned a note. The paper flapped hard in the breeze, edges dark with oil. Eli pulled it free. "Sell or bleed." The words scraped raw in his throat, though he read them only with his eyes. He folded the paper slow, slid it into his pocket. The baby whimpered. He adjusted the sling, fingers steady despite the heat crawling his neck. Bootsteps crunched. The preacher, coat faded, scar tugging across his cheek, stopped a few paces off. His gaze swept the broken rails, then Eli's set jaw. "They're pressing you hard," the preacher said, voice low as dust. Eli said nothing. "You don't have to carry it alone. The town would stand." Eli cut him a glance, sharp enough to end the offer. The preacher's mouth closed. Only the bell answered, one long toll carried by the wind. By dusk, whispers slithered through the main street. The blacksmith leaned on his hammer, muttering that no rancher could hold out forever. Cards stilled in the saloon, players glancing toward the door as if expecting Eli to appear, rifle in hand. But he never came. He sat by the hearth instead, baby swaddled against him, the fire painting shadows on the wall. His lips moved, quiet words meant only for the child. His wife's name caught once, broken in the hush. A knock jarred the silence. Mrs. Callahan again, bonnet stiff, cane wrapping the frame. "You hear me now?" she snapped, eyeing the soot-streaked note still folded near the rifle. A bride steadies a house. A widow's silence draws vultures. The baby stirred. Eli rocked slow, gaze fixed on the flames. He did not answer. Outside, the coyote started up, sharp against the night. Then a smell, sharp, rising wrong. Eli's head snapped toward the window. Orange licked the horizon. His barn, the roof already spitting sparks into the dark. He ran into the night, baby pressed tight, fire roaring louder than the child's cry. The cattle screamed. Heat slammed his face as he kicked open the corral gate. Smoke poured thick. Behind him, timbers cracked. Flames reached higher, and the desert sky glowed red as if the land itself had chosen sides. Gunfire cracked in the canyon, echo sharp enough to rattle stones from the cliffs. Eli dropped flat against the dust, baby pressed tight to his chest, the sound ringing in his ears like an old memory dragged back to life. The night smelled of sulfur and sweat. Torches moved along the ridge, 10 of them, swaying in the dark like a line of predators stalking down. The hired guns laughed low, their voices carrying thin and cruel through the desert air. Eli slid back against a boulder, eyes fixed on the glow of fire climbing the canyon wall. His fingers found the bundle beneath his coat, oilcloth worn and frayed. He peeled it open. Steel gleamed beneath the moon. The rifle lay heavy across his knees, scarred wood polished smooth by hands that once carried it through war. The baby stirred, soft cry swallowed by the wind. Eli rocked once, whispering nothing, only breath, before setting the child in the shadow of the rock, wrapped safe in his coat. His hands moved over the rifle with muscle memory older than grief, each motion carved into his bones. A voice drifted down from the ridge. "Granger, sell your land, or we'll salt it with your blood." Laughter followed, rolling through the canyon. Eli's jaw set. He slid a cartridge into place, the sound crisp, final. For years he had hidden this piece of himself beneath silence, beneath the weight of loss. Tonight the land pulled it free. The first torch rounded lower. A rider leaned forward, rifle across his lap. Eli drew breath slow, steady he let it out. The world narrowed to one sight, one heartbeat. The crack split the night. The rider pitched from the saddle, torch tumbling into the dirt. Horses screamed, scattering. The others shouted. Gunfire wild into the cliffs, sparks ricocheting stone. Eli stayed still. His eyes didn't blink. He loaded again, fingers sure calm. He was no rancher here, no grieving widower. The desert itself seemed to remember the man he had been. The sharpshooter whose bullets bent battles, whose name carried fear in enemy ranks. Another torch wavered. Another shot. Silence followed, broken only by curses riding the wind. He felt the weight of the rifle like an oath reclaimed. Every muscle remembered. Every breath came measured. The canyon was his battleground, as it had been years ago. From the porch back home, Mrs. Callahan's words still echoed. A man must first survive to see tomorrow. Eli's hand tightened on the rifle stock. The baby's small cry rose again, fragile against the night. He lifted his gaze to the ridge where more torches burned. The hired guns thought they were hunting a broken widower. But the desert knew better. Tonight, the war he had buried was waking. Dawn broke red. The sky burning as hooves thundered across the flats. 10 riders charged the ranch, dust boiling behind them, pistols raised high. Eli stood on the porch, baby bound to his chest, rifle balanced steady in his hands. The first shot cracked before the sun cleared the ridge. A rider toppled, boot caught in the stirrup, dragged lifeless as the horse bolted wild. The rest split, curses tearing the air. Gunfire roared back. Bullets chewed the porch rail, shattered a window. Eli moved with a calm that chilled the morning. Each squeeze of the trigger sharp, measured. Another man fell. Then another. The baby cried against him, voice high over the thunder. Eli's body shielded the small frame, but his eyes never wavered. He stepped down from the porch, boots sinking into the dust. The canyon carried every echo. Horses screamed, guns barked, smoke rising into the blood-colored sky. Eli moved through it like a shadow risen from long-buried war, rifles speaking in thunder, silence following each strike. For men broke, wheeling their mounts, but the cattle baron bellowed them forward. His black coat snapped behind him as he spurred through the dust, revolver gleaming. Eli's rifle cracked once more. Empty. He checked the chamber. Nothing. The hired guns closed, circling, their laughter sharp with hunger. The baby whimpered, small hands pressing weakly against his chest. Eli lowered the rifle to the ground. His breath came slow, steady. Then he reached to his side. The revolver glinted in the newborn light, steel placed in his keeping by Mrs. Callahan's hand. Eli lifted it smooth, one arm steady, the other holding life itself against him. The Baron's grin spread wide as he raised his gun. The desert held its breath. One shot. The Baron reeled back, hand clawing air, a black bloom spreading across his chest. He fell hard, boots kicking dust, eyes wide as silence swallowed him whole. The others froze. No word passed between them. They turned, spurred hard, vanished into the canyon with the rising sun at their backs. Eli stood still, smoke curling from the barrel, the revolver lowered slow. The child pressed close, his small cry softening, steadying as if the storm had passed. Ash drifted from the barn's charred beams, carried on the morning wind. The land quieted. Only the low bawl of cattle broke the silence. Some say he never spoke a word that day. Others swear he whispered to the child, words too soft for any ear but one. But the story carried. Folks told of the widowed rancher who faced 10 men with a baby bound to his chest, who stood his ground when the frontier itself tried to bury him. And when the desert wind rises, they still say his vow rides with it. That grief does not break a man if love is what he defends.